Hi, this tutorial is about vocabulary feedback. I wanted to put together a tutorial that looked at some of the student writing and give you some ways of correcting and identifying some of the problems in the work. Okay, so the goals for this tutorial are: one, provide feedback and guidance for completing the vocabulary writing activity. And and to do that, I think you need to be able to identify the problem areas in your own writing and then solve these problems. So this will be the focus of the tutorial. Okay, so this first set of feedback will deal with disciplinary sentences. That's the first sentence that you have to write. You'll notice I'm using the color green. These are student sentences, and the first sentence that I will look at here is: the word freedom is in the discipline libertarianism because it talks about people freedom. Okay, so let me give you the feedback for this here. So the first thing, I'm going to look at the content of the sentence, what the sentence means. And the first thing I'm going to say here is that disciplines are fields of study, and libertarian is not a field of study, but it is an ethical theory. So this sentence needs to change in terms of identifying the correct discipline. My guess is that this writer saw libertarianism as as a way of defining freedom, but libertarianism is not a discipline. However, it does belong to the discipline of philosophy. So I would make this change here where freedom is a word, or is in the discipline of psychology, or in the discipline of philosophy. So let me talk about the form. Now when I say the word form, what I'm talking about is the way the sentence is written, how the sentence is formed. And here, first of all, you should see freedom and discipline in the sentence. They should not be capital. Okay, the only letter that should be capitalized is the beginning and the end. Libertarianism should be capitalized because it is a proper noun. Okay, it's a name of a particular philosophy. Okay, and on the good side here, you do see that at the beginning there is a capital letter and it's ending with a period. So it's a decent sentence here in that sense. Okay, let's move on to the next sentence here. And this is again another discipline sentence. Order belongs in the discipline of politics because politics has to do with the order of who gets what and when. Okay, so let's look at the feedback here that I came up with that. And I'm only going to deal with the content feedback with this one. Yes, I agree that order has to do with political science, which is the discipline. Politics is not a discipline. So you need to make that change here. So order belongs to the discipline of political science. Politics is a part of political science. And again, disciplines are specific fields of study. And I think the only way you're really going to get that is if you start identifying what are the disciplines that we're discussing in class. The other thing I'm going to say here is there may be confusion on the meaning given this sentence. Order was discussed in the context of chaos, and I believe that we were talking about a historical situation in which there was a lot of chaos going on in the Middle Ages, and in the need for the conflict and the weapons that developed in Europe at that point. So I would recommend that you go back when you get in situations like this and look at your notes. How is the word being identified in class? Order, as I recall, was in comparison to chaos. Okay, and one of the things that governments want to do is to avoid chaos and create order. And one of the ways that they can do that is create laws or through their military means, which means soldiers stopping rebellions. Okay, so let's move on to uh, uh, the next one here. I The other thing I would make, I just noticed here that you want to look at your notes. Okay. Um, okay, so let's move on to the next one, and I'm going to leave the parts of speech alone. Pretty much if we look at what we've done so far, most of the words that we're defining are nouns, ideas, people, and places. Okay, so in terms of the definition sentences, okay, which are really a sentence that tells the meaning of the word. So let's go, we're going back to our sentence on order. Order is a way something is put. If we're talking about socks in a drawer, that probably makes sense. But again, our feedback here that I'm going to give is that this definition is in everyday language. Okay, it's an everyday definition. This activity is designed for you to recognize how the word is being used in the discipline. Okay, that has to start taking place. So meanings come from the discipline. Order in political science means something totally different than the order that you put things. In sociology or political science, there are different ways that societies come into order, and that's something that you're going to have to look into. Again, if you don't understand the word in the context, this is a good time to start talking about it. Okay, here's another one. The word is synthesis here. The meaning of synthesis is the combining of the constituent elements of separate materials or abstract entries into a single or unified entity. Okay, so I get the sense of reading this one that basically we're lifting this from a dictionary definition or pulling the definition off the internet. So I have some feedback for this sentence here. The first thing is synthesis belongs to the discipline of psychology, and psychology is about the study of the mind and how the brain works. And in this case here, synthesis is the process of combining ideas, and really how does the brain take ideas in and come out with a whole. That's the whole idea of synthesis. You're taking many different pieces and bringing it together into a unified whole. An example of that would be some of the generalizations that we are talking about in class, where we look at a number of atrocities that have occurred during the colonization period in North America, and synthesizing that into the idea that that's a violation of people's rights. Again, as I pointed out earlier, this definition seems to be just copied from the dictionary. We don't want to do that. We want to be defining the words in the way that we're talking about them in class. And then I'm going to talk about the form. The sentence problems here include spelling errors, capitalization, and the structure of the sentence needs to improve. And I think you want to write this in a way that we experience it in class. Again, we want to move away from dictionary definitions. We want to use the word the way we're talking and reading in class. Okay, let's move on to the next one here. The word argument means to disagree and fight about something. Again, use disciplinary language, not everyday language. In the context of our classroom, the word argument has been used in terms of the discipline of philosophy, and there an argument really consists of a claim and its evidence. Okay, it is not an argument about who should play what game, who should sit in what chair. Arguments are are packages of language with a claim and evidence. Okay, so let's move on to using the word in a sentence. Here's the first sentence that I chose. Geography is a book dealing with science or study, and usually the Earth's surface. Okay, this sentence here, we want to go back to when we studied it here, and geography was really studied when we looked at the migration of people in North America. If you recall how people in Siberia crossed into North America due to the land bridge and then migrated south as they followed the herds. And then we started talking about the types of geography and why they were going south. Obviously the weather's getting warmer as we head south, and geography kind of helped to explain the migration pattern. So geography really has to do with temperatures, the land formations, the climate, how much rain is being dropped in a certain area. So that's the context in which geography was covered. So I think you want to go back and look at how the words are being used in the classroom. And lastly, you'll see in red here, always make sure you write the sentence based on how we use it in the classroom. Okay, do not just lift things from other areas. And if you're confused or you can't find these words in your notes, you need to talk to me, post something on the blog, ask one of your classmates. Okay, here's another one. I think that's kind of just going to summarize how students are writing, the word in the sentence. The two boys had an argument about who gets to play we first. And the feedback is quite clear here. Use the word in the sentence the way it was used in the classroom or a text. I'm going to repeat that. Use the word in the sentence the way it was used in the classroom or the text. I think I've emphasized that quite frequently in class, and I hope to do it again here. Okay, so let me give you some final comments. Make sure you understand the different disciplines we have been studying in class. If you're not sure about that, post some comments about what are the disciplines we're studying. Again, use the online resources we have. Use your notes to complete this activity. I'm seeing way too many people not referring to their notes. I mentioned in class, this activity is designed to get you to use your notes. Ask questions if you don't understand when we use the word in class. Or if you've identified it in your notes and it still doesn't make sense, then that's a time for a conversation. And check your work before you submit it for a grade. Okay? It's easy to proofread out loud, and if it doesn't sound right, that's the time in which you want to make the change. And avoid using everyday language. Okay, get away from doing that. And always use disciplinary language for this activity. Okay, if you have any questions, you can rewind this. You can post questions to the blog or ask me in class.